Hey guys, here's a video of a table and chairs refinish that I wrapped up for a client of mine. This is their set, and here it goes. I started by, first I cleaned all the chairs, and then I primed all the chairs with a light gray primer. The primer that I used is made by Rust-Oleum, and I picked it up at the local Home Depot. It's just the primer, I still like for all of the brush strokes to go the same direction. After the primer dried on all the chairs, I went over them with a aged gray chalk paint, also made by Rust-Oleum. I didn't record myself painting every single chair because I didn't want to bore you to death. To use a short-handled brush. I feel like it gives me the most control when I'm painting. After that aged gray chalk paint dried, I used linen white and I dry brushed the whole chair, all over it, in the back, just everywhere. Dry brushing basically just means that I don't get my paintbrush completely wet. I just dab it in the paint just enough to get the bristles damp, and then I just work it into the chair, and I just kind of keep going over it with my brush until I get that look that I'm looking for. I really wanted it to have kind of a weathered look, so that's why I went this route. And also when you dry brush, you can see the color underneath, and I love the way that that aged gray looks underneath the linen white. It kind of gives it almost a beachy feel. When you dry brush, the paint dries super quick. So I gave it a little bit of time, and when it was dry, like 15 minutes later, just kidding, like an hour. It's dry before an hour. But I went over all of the edges of the chair with sandpaper and scuffed them out, just to give it a little bit of like definition. I like when it's a little bit shabby, has like a little bit of wear. I just like that look. When I was done, I cleaned it off, and then I used clear wax by Behr, and I waxed the chairs, all of them, all over, to seal them up and make them durable. I'm using a wax brush that I picked up at Amazon, or on Amazon. It's worked really well for me. I like it really well, and it's pretty affordable too, which I like. Now I'm going to work on the table because the chairs are done. The funny thing about this is I went to go turn on my sander and my plug-in wasn't done. So then once I turned the plug-in on the switch, my sander went off and I had to run outside to catch my sander. It was crazy. But anyways, here I am sanding the table. I used, I think it was 180. It was whatever grit is like right below 220, and I went through and I sanded off the finish. Then I went back over it and I sanded it with the 220. After I was done sanding, I wiped everything down, got it all clean so that it was ready to be stained. You gotta glove up when you're staining. This is the stain that I tried first, and I put it all over the entire top using the dip and wipe method. The stain did not do anything. I couldn't even tell that I put stain on it. So round 2, I used a different kind of stain. It's the Varathane, it's the classic gray, and the moment it went on, I was like, yes, there it is. And I went over the whole top. I did the dip and wipe method for a while, and then I was like, okay, enough of this. Let's just pour this stuff on there. Let's get it on there. So I did. I poured it on and wiped, poured it on and wiped, because I don't got all day. Do be careful that if you use this pour and wipe method, you want to be careful that you're not pouring too much. Just do a little bit at a time. That stain went on perfectly. Now I'm going to distress paint it. I used water and linen white and aged gray. I was nervous. Look at that face. Oh boy. So I dipped it in water because I want to keep my brush wet, and then I dip it in. I started with my linen white. So I dipped it in my linen white, and it's kind of like dry brushing. However, it's more of like a whitewash, and I'm putting it on and I'm so I've used my brush and then I wiped with a rag, and it's just working with the wood grain and a brush to get the look you like. What's cool about chalk paint is it's super forgiving. Let's say that I put some on and I don't like the way it looks. I can use water and wipe it off. You can wash chalk paint completely off as long as it's not wax. As long as you haven't polyed or waxed over it or sealed it, you can wash it off. So while I'm doing this, I don't have to be too nervous because I can wash it off if I need to. Fortunately, I felt like it went pretty well. I went over the whole top, and it's just eyeballing it to get the look that you like. Once I was done with the white, I went back over it with the aged gray using kind of the same method, but not quite as heavy. And it's like dry brush and wipe. Dry brush and wipe is basically what I did to get this weathered, aged look for this table. I'd also like to add that the pressure that I use is super light. I'm just feathering it on. Once that was dry, which was super fast, I used polyurethane in a matte finish to seal the top of the table. I did 2 coats of poly on the top because I really want it to be durable. It's a dining room table and it gets a lot of wear. When applying your sealer or your polyurethane, you always want to be sure that you're going in the same direction as the wood grain. Now that part of the top is done, I went over the rest of the table, the base and the leaf, with the primer. Then I went over with the aged gray. Then I dry brushed it with the linen white. Then I sanded it and waxed it with the clear bare wax. This is the finished product. I'm happy with it. The client's happy with it. I think it turned out really nice. I hope you like it. Leave comments, like, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.